Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. In today's episode of Chair Hospital, we have a pub chair for the broken back. Now, the pub chair is a very old design. Its distinguishing feature is that the seat itself is just an open frame. The front corners are joined here at the front leg, either with a mortise and tenon joint or dowels. We'll find out which one in a moment. The back leg goes all the way up to the back, and it's one piece, or at least it was, until it broke like that. And how easy this job is really depends on how easy it is to take this chair apart. Now, the corner braces came out without too much trouble. Let's see how strong these joints are. And I'm going to call that a very good sign. There are two common joints in chair making. The first is the mortise and tenon. The tenon is this little tongue of wood right here, and the mortise is the slot, and it just slips in like that. And that's a fairly strong, but kind of expensive joint to make. Much more common is the dowel joint. For dowel joints, you just drill holes and stick this in here like this. And that leads us to the cause of our failure. We've got these holes drilled all the way down through here, and we can see that it cracked right along where that hole is. If you look through the grimy windows of an early 20th century furniture mill, you wouldn't see a lot of clamps. What you would see would be a lot of little nails and some pots of glue. Now we're at that part of the project where everything that needs to come apart has come apart, and no great surprises, no disasters yet. There were two big chips ripped out of the corner of this piece, which goes on the back right like that. I've got them glued up and clamped. And since it's now, well, it's almost 4:15, I think it's time to shut down for the day and have all night long to think about what I'm going to do to put this chair back together. All right, it's Friday morning, and a decision has been reached. I'm going to go with the orthopedic pin method. And what that means is that I'm going to drill holes in each of these legs, going down, and then holes going up in the other part, and a steel rod will be inserted. Now, naturally, it's very difficult to get the holes in two pieces of wood that have to go like that to line up. So there is a way that we'll deal with that. But it will require the making of some complicated jigs, which it always does. So here we are at the Packard 12-speed precision drill press with our first, not really complicated jig, but I hope a very rigid one. Now, for this kind of work, the immediate problem is there's nothing to really measure from. You got these jagged, cracked edges like that. It's really more eyeball than anything else. I've got this bit centered in this leg as close as I can, and measuring off of here and then looking at it from both angles. But the critical thing is keeping this piece of wood from moving and keeping it clamped tight, because there's always a chance when you're drilling down through something this slender that it may just split apart. So I've got it braced a couple of ways from Tuesday, and about to start the first hole, which is always the most nerve-wracking part. We have a 1/2 inch Forstner bit going into oak. I'm turning at 1800 RPM, and let's see how it goes. The setup for doing the upper part is basically the same thing. Got it held nice and tight and rigid. Got this centered in both directions, and ready to drill. A few details on the final assembly. First, when wood cracks like this, it looks like it would go back together perfectly, but it never does. There's always distortion at these little peaks right here, and you can never get it compressed back straight again. What's important is that the edges match up. And to do that, I take a Dremel tool and I just go around on the inside here, staying away from the actual finished surface, cutting down those peaks and creating just a little bit more room. And that's also important because when we glue this back together, I want to be able to get a little bit of glue in between them like that. But I do that on all of them, all four corners, before I start to put it back together. Now, we drilled a 1/2 inch hole. The reason for that was because we're going to use a 3/8 rod. And that's what allows me to get this thing perfectly aligned when I put it back together. Because the adhesive that we're going to use is fiberglass body repair compound. This is a Bondo product, but a bunch of different people make it. But it has the 2-part resin stuff, and it's got chopped up fiberglass inside of it. Makes it incredibly strong. You can drill it, you can screw it, you can sand it, you can do all kinds of stuff to it, and what it sticks to basically is not coming off. Love this for any kind of repair where I've got to fill big gaps, or in this case, I'm trying to make up for lack of precision. Now this is the dry fit. I've got this clamp here because a tiny crack is developing in this leg where the hole was drilled. So I want to get that clamp nice and tight when the compound is put in there. This jig will hold the back in place at the proper angle. Make sure it can't shift. These 2 pipe clamps will pull it down tight. Get this joint as closed as possible. And these 2 steel pins are what are going to be the real repair. That transfers the stress and the load that was previously on this very weak spot where all these holes are drilled through it, up to here and to here. And if all goes well, it should be stronger than it was before, which that's the whole point of this job. Now this is the most stressful part because I'm trying to film it, and if I screw it up, say the wrong thing, then I really can't go back and refilm it. But basically this is a 2-part resin compound. That's the resin, this is the hardener. This little tube here is enough to do an entire quart of this stuff, which means that this uses a very small amount, about like that. Common mistake is to overmix it, too much hardener, and what happens is this stuff starts to set up long before you're ready to use it. But you get it thoroughly mixed, very much like epoxy, and then you go to work. Now I've got to stuff this stuff down this hole. But I don't want to put too much in it, because I'm going to put a rod in here to It's a little bigger than this piece. And what I want it to do is to squeeze out, but not so much that it overflows. Still a little more. And that looks good. Okay, that was fun. Now, one thing about using fiberglass body repair compound on furniture repair is that if you've got to shape it, you want to do it when it's been sitting about 15, maybe 20 minutes, and you can just make a mark with your fingernail, because this stuff, when it gets completely cured like this, it's very hard. When it's soft, it can be trimmed with a razor blade, cheese grater type rasp, but once it's hard like this, then you're going to be having to grind it with a sanding disc or a Dremel tool or something like that, and it makes it an awful lot of work. So do your rough shaping while it's still soft. I've used 3 different adhesives on this repair: the fiberglass body compound, PVA glue, and hide glue. PVA glue, in this case Type Bond 1, is a permanent glue. I use it on cracked or fractured wood and it never comes loose. I use hide glue on the tenons or the stretchers. Hide glue is considered reversible because water or steam will dissolve it and the joints can be taken apart. It breaks down with age, which is why all the joints were loose. Fiberglass compound is definitely permanent. I have the jig to hold the chair back in the right position while the compound cures because assembly has to be done quickly, and if something is crooked, there's really nothing to be done. It would be less work to build a new chair than to take this one apart and redo the job. Well, this is Bronze Age, the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And thank you for sticking through a video that illustrates why your mother told you never lean back in the chair. And I hope that you will give me a like and subscribe. Any comments, questions, happy to answer them. And again, thank you for watching.